he had noticed I was going low, and he said, okay, we'll just cut out basal. We're just not gonna, let's try just not doing that and see what happens. So the
Yeah.
team follows you really closely, especially like those 4 weeks right after transplant, because that is when those islet cells are really gearing up. So when I tell you your insulin needs change day by day by day, it's literally day by day. So one thing, I'd had my transplant on the 13th, and I went back on the 20th for, I was still in Chicago. I went back for my follow-up visit before I flew home, and I had been going low overnight. And Dr. Wachowski, who runs the entire program, he has my Dexcom on his phone. He watches it like a hawk. And so he had noticed I was going low, and he said, okay, we'll just cut out basal. We're just not gonna, let's try just not doing that and see what happens.
Okay.
So casually, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just words you don't think you're going to hear.
Yeah.
The interesting piece of that is they took me off basal, and I'm glad you brought this up actually. They took me off basal, but even though I had functioning islet cells, and even though they would have kept my blood sugar in check, I actually stayed on kind of a preventative dose of insulin for the first couple of months post-transplant. Islet cells take about 3 months to fully mature once you've had your transplant. So the goal is to take a little bit of kind of supportive insulin before you eat, give it time to kick in, let your blood sugar start dropping, and then eat whatever you're going to eat so that you don't stress those islet cells out while they are trying, you're trying not to overwork them while they're establishing blood flow. And so the interesting part with that, and I feel like everyone can understand this as a type 1, we all try to pre-bolus so carefully. The interesting piece is that several times I would think I did a good job pre-bolusing, but I didn't wait long enough. And so I would have a blood sugar spike from whatever I ate. And then my islets would also kick in, not realizing there's outside insulin on board. And then that would send me low. So the first few weeks post-transplant were like, when I tell you it was just different every day, but it was also really incredible. Even being off basal insulin, all of a sudden my Dexcom, like probably most people's, it was up like a roller coaster, depending on the day and hormones and all the different things, stress levels. And all of a sudden I have this islet cell transplant, and there's just this beautiful straight line, barely any. And I thought, is this what it used to be like before? Because that's, I never wore a CGM before. I never looked at that.
Okay.
And so getting to have that and see that almost instantly, it was incredible, life-changing.
Yeah, it's like the two were working side by side, kind of like the big sister little sister thing, and kind of filling in the gaps. With,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, that it makes sense when you think about really how those cells have to get in, they have to assimilate into the body, and like you say, mature. Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And I guess any other sort of like you gave a good example of the timing. Gosh, it's all about timing, right? So, and it's so funny
You
when
would
you
think I
were,
would be better
yeah.
at it after all these years, right? You'd think I'd be a pro, but there I was, still struggling to get my pre-bolus just right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Goes to show you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just your exit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're gonna make sure you don't forget what this life is like with diabetes. On your way, it's gonna be really good soon, but on your way out, we're gonna make sure. I love that. So, what do you think as far as like your labs? I'm sure these are all things that are happening. I have seen some of your graphs, like on social when you shared, and your A1C is like in the fives right now, the low fives. Are you still wearing a continuous, a CGM?
Yes, so I do still wear I don't take any insulin, but I do still wear a CGM because they use that for the trial to track data on
Makes
how I react to
sense.
things. And what's funny about that, I told you Dr. Rakowski, has all of his patients. He watches us. So the other night I had a compression low in the middle of the night, and I got a text from him at midnight that says, it said I was like at 55. And I had already gotten up and I'd done a finger prick and I was at like 92. I was fine. And so I get this text message and he said, is this low real? And I was like, no, 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 everything's fine. And so when I tell you they really stay on you. So they track my CGM data. And one of the craziest pieces coming out of this, Melissa, I knew that this would help with the highs, right? Like that's the point of getting those beta cells in there. I had never thought through the life-changing impact of not going low all the time. That is the thing that has been the most radically life-changing, wonderful. It's wonderful not to have to worry about carbs or carb count or any of those things, but being able to exercise and go ride bikes with my kids, being able to sleep through the night without going low or having to get up and correct. Those are the things that have been had the absolute biggest impact on my life so far.